BINO Nation, we're back in the building this morning. Not early morning, but it's still morning. Y'all already know how we do. Make sure y'all putting the shields in the chat. Make sure y'all putting the shields in the chat. Make sure y'all are putting the shields in the chat. We got a lot to talk about today. Today was the first court appearance for James Comey. We'll see if we can get any news on it. I know they were streaming it live, but they didn't really show anything. So we're gonna have to see if we can find some news on it. Let's see. Here we go right here. Let's check this out real quick. Let's see. Yo, as you guys are coming in, make sure you guys put the BINO shields in the chat. Make sure y'all put the BINO shields in the chat. Make sure y'all putting the BINO shields in the chat. Let's see what they're talking about.
Stand by just for one moment. I want to go back to Scott McFarland, who's joining us live from outside of that courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia. Scott.
Yeah, James Comey has just pleaded not guilty here in federal court in Alexandria. They are going to put this case immediately on a slow track. Comey and the prosecutors here are going to waive speedy trial rights. There are a number of complications here, including the fact that classified information might be involved. So we have a not guilty plea as expected, but everything now goes into a slower lane. And I expect we're going to measure this case in a matter of months, not in days or weeks, even though, as Caroline said, we are in the rocket docket, the fastest moving federal court in America, the Eastern District of Virginia. Noting this, Comey's attorney is uniquely high profile. Pat Fitzgerald, who has had a number of high profile defendants, including in this courthouse, is also the former U.S. attorney in Chicago. This is a high octane defense team going against Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney who, oh, by the way, is in her first ever role as a prosecutor.
All right, Scott, before I go back to Caroline, I just want to ask you a question, having covered Capitol Hill and now justice in Washington. These charges of lying to Congress, and they have to do with questions that the former FBI Director James Comey was asked while he was testifying before Congress about authorizing leaks to the press. Now, we know, that there were leaks to the press, but the question, of course, is, did he authorize it? He said he had not. But even if for the 5 years up until the statute of limitations ended, he had not been indicted, it's still kind of a pretty serious charge. And it could, there is a possibility where someone might say, yes, the director of the FBI authorized me to talk to the press. Is that not out of the realm of possibility?
We know there's a nexus, Vlad, of this case into testimony he gave in 2020. We know that in part because the charging document, though thin, alludes to a statement Comey made to Congress. And we know it happened 5 years ago because they ran right up against a deadline, a 5-year statute of limitations to file these charges. As I speak to you, I'm looking through the notes of our reporter in the courtroom, who thankfully has uniquely good handwriting. And we can get more of a readout of what actually happened in court today. James Comey did speak when the charges were read. He said back to the judge, when asked if he understands what's happening here, Comey said, "I do, Your Honor. Thank you very much." And that his defense counsel did, in fact, review the indictment, which is a small document so far, just a page and a half, very limited detail in the charging document. Looks like we didn't get any more detail what the U.S. Department of Justice is alleging here. The not guilty plea has been entered. James Comey, just as expected, as he said in his social media video a few days ago, has requested a jury trial. The charges have been formally read, and on brand for this courthouse, Vlad, as Caroline alluded to, they move fast. This thing started early. They began the arraignment 5 minutes before it was scheduled.
All right, Scott McFarland for us with the breaking news. If you're just joining us.
Stop trying to gaslight us into believing that these court proceedings are going to move fast. Is there anybody in the chat right now that honestly believes that these court proceedings are going to move fast? Like, I would argue that they're going to drag this court process. Look at how long cause. Look at how long Diddy's court process was. And this is and by the way, like me personally, I don't think it's fair that federal courts do not show the public the court proceedings. I don't think that that's fair. I don't know what their reasoning behind it is, you know, but in my personal opinion, I feel like any court process should be open to the public. I feel like anybody should be able to see what's going on in court. I feel like they should take cameras in there. I feel like, you know, we should know like how, because when you have federal proceedings like this with these high profile individuals like James Comey, how do we even know they're in court? How do we even know that there are any court proceedings? Like, how do we know that they're actually being held accountable? If we can have cameras in Congress and watch, and you know what, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm starting to feel like the only reason why they don't have a problem with cameras being in Congress is because they don't do shit. Like, all they do is interview people, right? All they do is interview people, and that's it. Like, when do they really hold people accountable in Congress? When? I haven't seen it in my lifetime. I've never seen I've never seen Congress have a committee or question people and it actually lead to anything real. Like, I've never seen that, right? I've never seen that. And then, you know, some people will say, well, you know, Angryman, they have the committee or they have the Congress proceedings, and then that leads to, you know, the attorney general, you know, bringing charges. Well, why do we have to go through that process? Why do we have to go through that process? Like, nobody has to, if you, average Joe citizen, is accused of doing something, right? City Hall doesn't have to have you come down to City Hall to ask questions, you know, to ask you questions about whether or not you did this and what did you do on this day and all of this. They don't have to do all of that in order to bring an indictment against you. They don't have to do all of that to issue a warrant against you. All they have to do is have some reasonable suspicion or some sort of evidence that says you may have been involved in a crime. And guess what? They can come down it like, bro, I'm tired of this two-tier justice system. I'm sick of it. They even do this with wealthy people. You know, with wealthy people, they don't kick in their door and drag them out by their hair in the middle of the night or in the wee hours of the morning. What they do is they contact the person's lawyer, and the lawyer negotiates a surrender, you know, and they say, well, you know, we'll have him come in, but we don't want to do the perp walk, or we don't want to have, you know, we don't want any cameras out there, or we want to turn him in, but we want to come around the back entrance. And they do all types of goofy shit like that. Like, it needs to stop, because guess what? It's this two-tier justice system that has allowed the level of corruption that we see in politics now, in DC right now. This is where this level of corruption comes from, because these people are not being held to the same standard that us average everyday folks are being held to.
Former FBI Director James Comey has just pleaded not guilty to charges of lying to Congress. We are obviously going to continue to monitor what is happening there in Alexandria, Virginia, including if the former FBI director decides to step to the camera and make a statement, or even if he posts one later on his social media feed, which he is known to do. Let's go back to CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi. So, Caroline, you just heard Comey has pleaded not guilty. But my question to Scott, that you could sort of add color to, is this charge of lying to Congress, which has to do with whether or not James Comey authorized leaks to the press. even if it is thin, even if the charging documents don't have a lot of weight to them, he could potentially, I mean, there could be something that comes out that finds him guilty. But the question is, of course, if they hadn't found anything up until now, do we expect that to happen?
Yeah, I think that Scott just broke some big news there, which is that there is going to be classified information involved in this prosecution, which will slow things down quite a bit when you deal with those types of issues. It can take some time because, again, it's highly classified information. So you need protective orders and things of that nature. Now, regarding the strength of the evidence, there has been, and as Scott noted, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was just placed in an interim position as an acting United States Attorney, Lindsay Halligan. This was her first ever criminal indictment. And the way in which she was appointed, is quite extraordinary. Eric Seibert was pushed out of that position. And I would think that the defense would be making dispositive motions based on that and the statute of limitations. As we know, it's an easy case, but it's sort of convoluted in that it charges conduct based on 2020 testimony that then refers back to 2017 testimony. And you're right, it is in regards to the potential of these leaks of validation and signing off on these leaks, but we'll see what the government has. I think that's a lot of new news. If they do have,
Caroline, stand by just one moment. This is a very fluid, obviously breaking news situation. So let's go back to Scott McFarland, who's joining us from outside of the courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia. Scott, what do you got?
Oh, you're going to love this. We have a system where different people are running out updates as this proceeding goes along. We have more information now. The prosecution was arguing that this is a complicated case that requires more time. And the judge here, Michael Nachmanoff, a Biden appointee from a few years ago, expressed some skepticism that this 2-count indictment, which is just a page and a half, is a sufficiently complicated case right now to warrant such a slowdown in the proceedings. So we already have our first bit of skepticism from the judge in a case that has drawn a bit of skepticism from nonpartisan legal analysts who've said this is untraditional how this has played out so far. The initial trial.
Man, shut your lame ass. Yo, they kill me with this shit. Bro, they hit Trump. They hit Trump with 90-some freaking charges, bro. 90-some charges. And I guarantee you, if you go back and pull the footage of CBS News, there is no point where they said, there are nonpartisan legal analysts that are skeptical about these charges. The judge was skeptical, and this is unprecedented and this is out of the norm. I guarantee you they didn't say that when Donald Trump, in fact, I don't even have to guarantee. I know they didn't say it because I watched the news. This dude gets hit with 2 counts of freaking perjury for lying to Congress, and they're talking about this is unprecedented. Unbelievable.
Trial date has been set, or at least it's been talked about as January 12th. I would not write that in permanent ink. Federal trial dates tend to be very slippery at best. And in this case, you see the possibility, if not the likelihood, of motions to dismiss, potentially a superseding indictment, more information to be released. I would think that a trial date that ambitious is just that, an ambitious thing to put on the calendar for now.
Wow, that is some very, very interesting color there from Scott McFarland. Let's bring
That's amazing. It's amazing when you reach that level. They got to wonder if they're able to put a trial date on the calendar. They got to wonder when we're going to be able to get to this case. Like, when are we going to be able to get to this case? Like, but let you steal a candy bar from a damn gas station. Let you be a homeless guy that's starving and you go in a grocery store and you steal a damn candy bar. I guarantee you they're not going to be wondering when they can put the case on the docket. I guarantee you they're not going to be wondering when they're going to proceed with the proceedings. This is crazy, bro.
Caroline Polisi just to add her thoughts on what Scott just broke for us here at CBS News 24/7. Caroline, what do you think about what the prosecution was asking for and the judge's response?
Not surprising. Nachmanoff is a pragmatist, and again, it is standard practice in this jurisdiction to move quickly. I do think there will be a lot of snags. I wouldn't count on that January date, staying firm, particularly in this discovery process. There's a lot.
Go ahead, Caroline.
There's a lot that is publicly known about this case, and the reason that the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, who was previously in that position, declined to prosecute that case is that it's been run up and down the flagpole quite a few times. He reviewed the evidence in the case and decided not to prosecute, and that's why he was, among other things, that's why he was pushed out. There was also, remember, a special counsel investigation into John Durham that reviewed the evidence in this case and decided not to move forward. There wouldn't be enough evidence to obtain a conviction if there was a prosecution. And specifically, that has to do with different witnesses' testimony, but there's a very fulsome review of what actually transpired here. So, the additional curveball of the classified information could slow things down a bit, but already we're seeing this pushback from the judge. I think that's a pretty strong indication that he won't really tolerate many antics from the prosecution in this case.
Unbelievable. Unreal. And speaking of unprecedented, right? Speaking of unprecedented, check this out. So Eric Trump went on to what is the show? News Nation, because Cuomo, the younger Cuomo got shit canned, we all know. And so he's over there on News Nation, and they had a back and forth. And I want you guys to check this out. By the way, shout out to my man King Cato. He says support for the show AM. Appreciate you. Also on the Cash App side of the game, shout out to my man Lowell. He said for the Underground Fund. Appreciate you. Shout out to Jerome. Jerome said good move with the channel. Bring the truth, bruh. Appreciate you. Shout out to Dark Power coming through, showing love as always. But let's check this out real quick.
I find it so ironic that you're literally one that's pushing back on the weaponization of government when the very same people that were coming after us, went after your brother, like hounds. I mean, they did everything they could to destroy his governorship. They did everything they could to destroy his life. They did everything they could to destroy you. I sat in that same seat. The only difference is my last name wasn't Cuomo. My last name was Trump. They were trying to destroy my father. And by doing that, they were trying to destroy me, and they were trying to destroy the Trump organization. They were trying to take all our assets and strip our name off of every building in New York City. You've been on the receiving end of the very same people that I've been on the receiving end of. And so to play coy with me as if this isn't happening in the United States of America just seems ironic and foolish given what you've been through more so than anybody.
Hold on a second. What did you just say that you think I'm doing? I'm asking you questions about whether or not if something is wrong, it is also wrong to do the same thing when you get back in power, which certainly happened the first time the administration came in. You went right after Biden. And I don't mean you weren't part of the administration. I'll get to you in a second in terms of what's going on right now. But if you think I'm playing coy, you don't know me as well as you should.
Chris,
I'm not playing coy. I know what happened to me,
Chris,
Eric.
I'm
saying that
and it was
what is
horrible
happening now looks like what was done to you. That's why I'm asking the question.
Did we raid Biden's home? Did we try and bankrupt Biden? Did they come after us? Did we weaponize every AG and DA, against Biden? Did we do that against Hunter Biden, who had a laptop from hell, pictures of cocaine, illicit drug use, prostitution? Did we do that? Did we make up a dirty dossier about Biden? Did they try and destroy Biden's marriage? Was any of that true? I mean, did we make up stories that Biden had secret servers in the basement of his home communicating with the Kremlin in Russia? Did we strip Biden off the ballot of multiple states? Did we take Biden off of Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and try and silence his voice so he couldn't communicate? Did we put Biden in a courtroom every single day? 91 felony counts that have all been overturned for my father now, right? For nonsense, to try and keep him off of a campaign trail and to try and destroy his life. Did we do any of that? And the answer is no. I mean, if Comey lied and Republicans want to prosecute him, okay, then you know how many people they went after for perjury? In my father's last cabinet, they went after everybody. Even if they didn't perjure themselves, they went after them for perjury.
Eric, I get the grievance, okay? I'm not saying that. Now, did you do those things? No, that's what was done to you. It doesn't mean that other things weren't done in retaliation or now to balance it out. I mean, today, what was happening with Jack Smith, I don't need that conversation. I don't need to go back. I need to get the evidence.
Chris Cuomo, you blithering idiot. Is it possible, Chris, that just maybe the reason why Trump is going after James Comey is because what they did before was wrong? Like, he literally just contradicted himself. He's like, well, what you guys are doing looks an awful lot like what was just done. No. Who did it first? And I know what people are going to say. Oh, Angryman, come on. What do you mean who did it first? Who did it first matters. Who did it first matters. See, the problem is you have a sort of paradox. The paradox is you have people who are charged with the duty of upholding the law, breaking the law. Okay? So that's one element. That's one thing that creates the problem. You have a group of people who are supposed to be upholding the law, but they're abusing their power by breaking the law. You also have a system where that group of people occasionally get swapped out for a new group of people. So if Group A is in power and they're charged with the duty of upholding the law, but instead they break the law by doing questionable and possibly illegal things to go after Group B. Group A is the group that actually created the circumstance of we're upholding the law, or we're supposed to uphold the law, but we're going to break the law. Okay? So they basically set the precedent, right? Group B gets back into power, and now Group B is charged with the duty of upholding the law. To tell Group B, you can't go after Group A because what Group A did was wrong is illogical. What Group A did was wrong only because they were operating outside of the law. And because they were operating outside of the law, now that Group B is in power, it is their mandate to go after Group A, because Group A is the group that initially broke the damn law instead of upholding it. So if Group B doesn't go after Group A, that's when they'll be acting like Group A, because they will not be upholding the damn law. The only way Group B can uphold the law is they have to hold Group A accountable. It is really simple. It's really simple, but they get up here all the time trying their best to gaslight. And the reason why is because they want to act like what the Democrats did wasn't wrong. The only way you can say that the Trump administration is playing tit for tat is if you think what the Democrats did wasn't wrong. It was just something they decided to do. Yeah, you know, it was out of bounds, but it wasn't like they did anything illegal. They were just being petty. So Donald Trump, your administration shouldn't get into office and be petty too. But that's not the case. This wasn't a matter of the Democrats simply being petty. This wasn't a matter of the Democrats simply doing something that was off-colored or shouldn't, you know, or was frowned upon. No, these individuals were spying on people unjustly. This group of individuals were hitting people with trumped up charges, no pun intended. They were engaging outside of the realm of the confines of the law. They were abusing their power, doing things that are illegal. So now that the Republicans are in power, in order to destroy that precedent that was set, which is, you know, we can go after our political opponents, even though we're not supposed to do that because we're hitting them with charges that's not even really charges. We're weaponizing the justice system to take down people that are not guilty of a crime. It is the Republicans' responsibility to make an example of the Democrats that did that so that no one moving forward in politics will do that again. Otherwise, every single time somebody has a political opponent they don't like, what's going to determine the election and determine who has power is whoever can be the most corrupt. Who's better at being the most corrupt? Who's going to be better at it? Who's going to be better at being the most corrupt? That's who gets to be in charge. And that's the worst people to be in charge. No, whoever is corrupt need to be weeded out, removed from office, and banished from political life forever. That's what needs to happen. So this idea, and see, it's so hilarious because it's so illogical when you think about it. The Democrats know that what they did to Donald Trump was wrong. They know it was wrong. They know it was wrong. How do we know that they know it was wrong? Because now that Trump has a legitimate reason to prosecute them, unlike them who had an illegitimate reason to prosecute him, they want to tell him it's wrong. So how is it wrong for Donald Trump to have a legitimate reason to go after them, but it wasn't wrong for them to go after him when they didn't have a legitimate reason, other than the fact that he was a political opponent? See, the entire crux of this is them trying to propose it as if the only reason Donald Trump is going after them is because they're his political opponent, when they're not his political opponent right now. He already won the election. That's the other part that they don't want to include. When they went after Donald Trump, they went after him when there was a possibility he could win and be president again. So the entire reason they went after him is to circumvent him from being president. How do I know this? Because they tried to take him off the ballot. Some unconstitutional shit. How is Donald Trump going after them right now because they're his political opponents if he's already won the election? And he doesn't have a future election to win. This is his second term. So it's not like he's going to run for president again. It makes absolutely no sense absolutely no sense whatsoever. No, Donald Trump and his Department of Justice, they are going after these Democrats because these Democrats have quite obviously engaged in numerous abuses of power. They have been running buck ass wild. They've been running buck wild. They've been spying on congressmen. They've been spying on presidential campaigns. They've been hiding shit. They've been doing all types of shit. And I'm going to tell you something. The reason it's starting to become painfully clear why they're so angry now. I mean, wouldn't you be angry if you've been doing whatever the fool? Wouldn't you be angry if you've been doing whatever you want for decades? No matter what you did, you got away with it. No matter what you did, no one could hold you accountable. You see it now with Adam Schiff and all of the Democrats when they have conversations with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and any of the individuals that are part of Trump's squad, his accountability squad. You see the anger in their face. It's like, how dare you tell me, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, that we can't do whatever the hell we want to do? Don't you know who we are? This is Washington, D.C. We're in Congress. We're above everybody else. We get to do whatever we want, whenever we want. How dare you show up with your president who's never even been a politician, who doesn't know how the D.C. machine works? How dare you show up and think you're going to weed out our corruption and stop us from doing all of the crap that we want to do? That's what's going on right now. And this is why it's hilarious to me whenever somebody whenever it's a black person, somebody from my own race, black people, or leftists that want to come to me and say, you know, Donald Trump, he's a dictator, he's part of a regime. You're a damn idiot. Any of you right now who look at all of what the Democrats are doing right now and think that they're for good and they're on the side of good, you are a bunch of blithering idiots. You shouldn't be allowed to operate machinery. You shouldn't be allowed to operate a vehicle. They should revoke your license right now. They should hire people to help you tie your shoes, because I'm trying to figure out how you exist in the world being this damn stupid. I can't figure it out. To save my life, you have to be some of the most inept. You got to be an NPC. There's no way. There's absolutely no way you can look at what the Democrats are doing right now. They are literally advocating for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants that are tied into the cartels and several gangs. Like, what? Are you serious right now? How? How do you look at any of this as an American citizen? How do you look at any of this and condone it? How do you look at any of this and say, yeah, you know, those Democrats there, they've got the country's best interest in mind? How? How? Like, I need to understand it. Because I can't understand it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Absolutely no sense.
Epstein files. I need to get the information. And I don't blame your father for this, by the way. Your father is not the problem on this one. It's the people around him who said things before and now say different things, and they're not doing what they promised to do. That's that issue for me. Why I'm asking you this, Eric, and I get why you're pissed off. It would be weird if you weren't. It's that when does anybody try to be better instead of just proving that the other side is worse every time they get into power? That's what I think drives the division. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I think that's a great argument, unless you go back to 2017, of course. I mean, my father could have thrown Hillary Clinton in jail. She deleted 33,000 emails, went under, congressional, subpoena, and she laughed about it. Oh, ha, 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 we're using bleach bit. I mean, my father thought it would be totally inappropriate to do that to the first lady, a former first lady of the United States, somebody that was Secretary of State. He wasn't.
And he was wrong. And he was wrong. And he was wrong. And you see what happens when you operate like that. You see what happens when you operate like that. Now, did they show him the same grace? Did they say, you know what? There's no way that we're going to mugshot a former president of the United States. There's no way that we're going to raid the house of a former president of the United States. Like, yo, I'm telling you right now, look. I get it. Republicans believe in these hallowed institutions of America. I get it. You believe in the institutions. You believe in the sanctity of the institutions. You believe in the wisdom of the forefathers, and every night you wrap yourself in the American flag and you believe in the sacredness of it. I get it. But when are you going to realize the Democrats don't? When are you going to realize that if the Democrats had the ability, they would tear the Constitution to shreds, they would throw it on the ground, they would pour lighter fluid on it, and they would set it on fire? If they could get their freaking hands on it. How do I know this? Because there's plenty of Democrat citizens right now setting the flag on fire. And in my personal opinion, if you're willing to set the flag on fire, you're definitely willing to set the damn Constitution on fire, and hell, you're willing to set the nation on fire. I don't give a damn what nobody says. If you're willing to burn the flag, you're willing to burn the Constitution, you're willing to burn the Bill of Rights, you're willing to burn all of the institutions, and you're definitely willing to burn the damn nation down. I don't care what nobody says. Because otherwise, why are you burning the flag? What is burning the flag symbolic of? What is burning the flag symbolic of? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I tell you why you would do it. Because you hate the country and everything it represents. Burning the flag is you saying you hate everything that this country represents. Because if I remember correctly, when I was a kid, just like many of you, every morning in school, we would say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. For which it stands. I'm going to say it again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. What stands for the United States of America and the republic? The flag. When you burn the flag, you're basically saying you hate what the flag stands for, which is the United States of America and this constitutional republic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's why it's funny to me when I hear these talking heads, on the news talking about Trump said that Trump is trying to invade these states. Invade? Yeah, he's sending troops to Chicago and Portland. He's trying to invade these states. He's an invader. So let me get this straight. You think the president and American troops are invading states that they've been deployed to, but the illegal immigrants that came here aren't invading? How the hell does that make any sense? So the people who are not supposed to be here, the people who are here illegally, if I call them invaders, you're offended. But if the president of the United States sends U.S. troops to Chicago or Portland to quell revolt, to quell rioting, they're invaders? I don't know what's wrong with you people in Portland, and I don't know what's wrong with you people in Chicago. Donald Trump is not the president of Washington, D.C. He's the president of the United States of America. There's a reason it's called the United States of America. The United States of America. The president can't invade a state. He's already over the states. It's called the Supremacy Clause. Regardless of what you got going on in states, but here's a prime example, right? You could be in a state that decided to legalize marijuana. Guess what? Feds can still lock you up for it. Because even though marijuana may be legal in your state, it's not legal federally. And because it's not legal federally, you have no legal ground to stand on should the feds decide to lock you up for marijuana. Because of the Supremacy Clause. Federal law is the supreme law of the land. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. That's why it doesn't matter how many states try to come with goofy ass gun laws. That shit don't matter. It doesn't affect us that live in other states because federally, we still have the Second Amendment. Doesn't matter what the law is in New York when it comes to firearms. In North Carolina, I can still have my firearm on me. Can still have it. And by the way, they're getting ready to get to the point where your concealed carry, they're fighting for this right now. Your concealed, look, if I have a license in the state of North Carolina to drive a car, that license is still valid when I'm in Virginia. If I'm driving up, 95, if I go up to Virginia, if I'm driving through Virginia, if I'm driving through any other state, doesn't matter what state I'm in, my license, my driver's license is valid in all 50 states. So you explain to me why the hell your concealed carry isn't valid in all 50 states. I'll take it a step further. If I'm a North Carolina resident and my state allows me to carry a freaking gun, I should be able to carry a gun in any state. And if you really want to be honest about it, the fact that you have individual states coming up with their own goofy laws, it's unconstitutional when it comes to freedom of speech and when it comes to the Second Amendment. Your right to bear arms should be in any of the 50 states of the United States of America. Point blank, period. End of discussion. End of discussion.
Given 12 minutes. Again, I go back to the Washington Post argument. This is when the impeachment of Donald Trump begins, 12 minutes after his hand came off the Bible on January 20th of 2017. And that's when the game started. Again, the whole Russia collusion narrative was made up. And I had to live with it for 3 years. I spent $400 million defending our company against something that was made up and paid for by Hillary Clinton, yet my father let all of it go. He didn't go after her. He didn't try. And you know what? They didn't go after him until he decided he wanted to run again, in which case they tried to imprison him, in which case they dragged him through every court in the country, whether it's Fulton County, whether it's New York City, you know the cases very well, whether it's the Southern District of Florida, whether it's Washington, D.C., whether it was Robert Mueller, whether it was Jack Smith. I mean, Jack Smith claimed that he raided Mar-a-Lago because of NARA, National Archives. Does anybody actually believe you have 30 agents that raid Mar-a-Lago because of the National Archives, a glorified library?
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation.
Ridiculous. Ridiculously unbelievable. Shout out to Joel. He said, for the show. Appreciate you. Shout out to King's Speech. Appreciate you, fam. Shout out to Third Eye. He said James Comey literally admitted under oath that he leaked classified information to his friend that is a professor at Columbia University. Shaking my effing head. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So why are they acting like this case is going to be unprecedented and all of this if he literally already admitted that he Shout out to Mike. He said, got my license to carry in GA in Georgia years ago, moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, and they honored it. Yeah, well, states that actually have the ability, states where you have the ability to get a concealed carry, a lot of times if you come from a state where you have a concealed carry and you move to a state that allows you to have a concealed carry, they'll usually honor it. You know what I'm saying? But you shouldn't have to, if you really want to be truthfully honest, if you really want to be honest, you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do it. And that's just the truth. But again, there is a constant battle. I'm telling you right now, the reason why you know that there is something wrong with these individuals on the Democrat side is because there is a constant battle just for us to continue having the First Amendment and the Second Amendment to the Constitution. Y'all wouldn't even believe it. Y'all wouldn't even believe how hard in the paint the Democrats have been going to try to get rid of the First Amendment and the Second Amendment to the Constitution. You have absolutely no idea, bro. They have been relentless. You feel me? In fact, let me tell you something. If it weren't for gun organizations like the NRA, you'd have lost your Second Amendment right a long time ago. The only reason, you know, when the ATF starts engaging in its buffoonery and its goofiness, right? Organizations like the NRA and these other gun organizations, they have the money to sue them. So they'll sue them. And then what happens is the case it'll usually get pushed all the way to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court has to weigh in on it. And usually the Supreme Court weighs in on the side of gun owners and people who actually want the Second Amendment. But yo, they're relentless, bro. They're relentless. They're relentless. Speaking of relentless, they decided your boy Adam Schiff and a few other Democrats decided to go in on Pam Bondi, which was really interesting. Let's check this out.
From Washington tonight, as always. Thanks for spending some time with us. Schiff sweats, Dems dissolve, Bondi dominates. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Today was supposed to be their big moment. With AG Pam Bondi on the Hill, the Democrats on the Senate Oversight Committee thought they'd flip the script on Team Trump. They thought they'd nail Bondi and Trump on weaponization, using government to punish people's political opponents. Even as new shocking evidence shows that's precisely what Democrats did. As Chicago and Portland boil over, and as the federal government remains shut down, the Democrats' focus was on protecting...
Let's pause for a second. DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman, said if you move to another state, you have to give up your driver's license in the state you got it from. I'm from Philly and could buy a gun with my driver's license. New Jersey made me give up my driver's license. Check this out, DJ, aka Mr. Sandman. You're an idiot. And then I'm going to tell you why you're an idiot. I wasn't talking about moving to another damn state. I was talking about driving through another state. I was talking about driving through another state. That's what I was talking about. If I have a concealed carry license in the state of North Carolina, I can't conceal carry in New York. Can't conceal carry in New York. So if I travel, if I'm in my car driving and I have a gun in a holster and my shirt is covering it, because I have a concealed carry license and I drive through a state that doesn't have concealed carry and I get pulled over by the police and they see that I have a concealed gun, I'm going to get in trouble. If I drive through a state with a North Carolina driver's license and I get pulled over in a different state that I'm traveling through, I'm not going to get in trouble for having a North Carolina driver's license. That was the point I was trying to make. Nobody said anything about moving to another state. Of course, if you move to another state, you would have to change your license. And if that state doesn't allow concealed carry, you can't conceal carry. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being a resident of a state that allows you to conceal carry. You have a license in that state. You also have a driver's license in that state. If you're traveling through another state, you're not going to get in trouble for having a license from a different state. But you will get in trouble if you're trying to conceal carry, even though you have a license from your state to conceal carry. Does everybody else understand what I'm saying? Does everybody else understand what I'm saying? DJ, aka Mr. Sandman, said, "You're right. Am I an idiot for super chatting? A bigger idiot? I didn't say you were wrong, doofus. No, but you said," let's read it again. You said, if you move to another state, you have to give up your driver's license in that state you got it from. I'm from Philly, and I could buy a gun with my driver's license. New Jersey made me give up my driver's license. Now, if you take that comment and you apply it to the context of the conversation I was just having, it makes it seem like you disagree with what I'm saying. Because I was not talking about moving to another state. I was talking about the fact that if you have a concealed carry in your respective state, your concealed carry should be honored in every other state the same way your driver's license is honored in every other state. Why? Because in order for you to get a concealed carry, you have to go through a process. You have to go through a safety class. You have to go through a bunch of different things in order to prove that you are worthy of carrying a firearm concealed. That should be honored in all of the 50 states, in my humble opinion. The same way you have to go through something in order to get a driver's license, which is honored in every other state. You, sir, added something to the conversation, which was something that I did not bring up. But it's still pertaining to what I was talking about. So this is one of those situations where it's like, I could be talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I like the way, I like to make my peanut butter jelly sandwich and slice it down the middle. I don't really like the peanut butter jelly combo. The jar that comes with the peanut butter and jelly already in it. I like the peanut butter and the jelly to be separate so that I can put them together later, because to me, it just seems like it tastes better or whatever, right? And then all of a sudden you just come out of nowhere and say, well, peanut butter and jelly combos don't have peanuts in it. What the hell did that got to do with what I just got through saying? Like, what is you having to give up your license when you move to another state have to do with what I just got through talking about? How does that pertain to what I just got through talking about? And it's not like you changed the subject. You're still on the subject. You just went left for no damn reason. And then get upset because I called you an idiot. Yes, I called you an idiot. Yes, I did. I absolutely did. I absolutely did. What? Because you super chatted? That meant I wasn't gonna call you an idiot? Sorry, my friend. You're incorrect. You're incorrect. Like, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Did that or did that not seem like he was disagreeing with me? Or am I just crazy? Because what it seemed like is he was saying, well, when you move to another state, you have to give up your license. It seemed like he was trying to say, well, when you go to another state, you might have to give up your concealed carry, or you might have to give up your right to carry a gun. That's what it seemed like he was implying. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Is that or is that not what it seemed like he was implying? Let me know. If I'm just assuming shit, let me know. But that's what it seemed like to me. That's what it seemed like to me.
Disgraced former FBI director Jim Comey and criminal aliens. It didn't go well for him.
If you work for me, you would.
On the Hill, the Democrats on the Senate Oversight Committee thought they'd flipped the script on Team Trump. They thought they'd nail Bondi and Trump on weaponization, using government to punish people's political opponents. Even as new shocking evidence shows that's precisely what Democrats did. As Chicago and Portland boil over, and as the federal government remains shut down, the Democrats' focus was on protecting disgraced former FBI director Jim Comey and criminal aliens. It didn't go well for him.
If you work for me, you would have been fired because you were censured by Congress for lying with your
we can stipulate to, you can stipulate to all your personal attacks on the Democratic members of the committee.
personal attacks. You've been attacking my FBI director. You've been attacking my office. You've been attacking.
But what we're interested in,
borders are.
what we're interested in is the answer to these oversight questions.
Want your
So
no,
you were
oversight.
asked by my colleague. You were asked by my colleague.
Attacking good people.
Now, I want to point something out. Do you see how frustrated Adam Schiff is right now? Because before Donald Trump and his administration, Republicans were not willing to argue with these people. Have y'all noticed that? Have y'all noticed that? Before Donald Trump and his administration, Republicans always took the high road. They never got down and dirty and argued with these Democrats. And how you know this is because when you look at the level of frustration on their face when they don't get their way, when these new MAGA Republicans start going back and forth with them, they get frustrated. They're like, wait a minute, you can't do that. You don't get to go back and forth with me. You just have to accept what I'm saying. You just have to sit there and take it and maintain your decorum. No, we not doing that no more. We not doing that no more.
Should be behind bars. The ultimate insurrectionist, a man who tried to subvert Trump's entire first term based on lies and smears. But of course, that's their playbook. Accuse Trump of what they've already done, hoping the media will echo it long enough to confuse the public. But Bondi didn't blink. She turned the focus where it belongs, back to their record.
Operation Arctic Frost was an unconstitutional, undemocratic abuse of power. During Arctic Frost, the FBI also placed 92 linked Republican individuals and Republican groups, such as Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, on their list. This is the kind of conduct that shattered the American people's faith in our government. We are ending this weaponization.
It's over. And Arctic Frost, by the way, it wasn't some inadvertent mistake by a low-level staffer or some policy error. It was a full-blown attempt at a political dragnet authorized by the Biden DOJ and the FBI, launched in April of 2022. Now, officials used their preliminary analysis powers to collect communications from Republican senators, party organizers, and conservative activists, as Attorney General said, like Charlie Kirk. Now, this all came to light because of the work of Senators Charles Grassley and Ron Johnson. And this fishing expedition run by agents working for the Special Counsel's office, Jack Smith, was coordinated with 13 field offices and resulted in the issuance of, we're told, 50 subpoenas. So 8 Republican senators were targeted without legal justification. Lindsey Graham, Marsha Blackburn, Ron Johnson, Josh Hawley, Cynthia Lummis, Bill Hagerty, Dan Sullivan, and Tommy Tuberville.
Yo, Lindsey Graham was pissed. Oh, he was, bro. Lindsey Graham was mad as a damn hornet. Like he was highly upset. You tell me why someone would have to spy on my phone calls. Like, I'm the head of the freaking oversight committee. I'm the head of the, like he was getting red in the face. I'm the head of the oversight committee. What reason would you have to be spying on my phone calls? Ooh-wee. Oh my goodness.
They were all spied on. This wasn't national security. It was an attempt at partisan surveillance. FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted, "They track GOP senators. They weaponize law enforcement. That era is over." We sure hope so. And he also confirmed that CR-15 surveillance unit had been dismantled and agents involved have been fired. But understandably, senators want answers.
What do I have to show to get the phone records of a sitting United States senator?
You would have to have cause.
Can you tell me why my phone records, when I'm the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, were sought by the Jack Smith agents? Do you think
I'm the chairman of the Judiciary Committee? Don't worry, Lindsey. Don't worry, Lindsey. We're not gonna find out about those side chicks. Don't worry, bro.
that was an abuse of power?
Senator, I cannot discuss whether there is or is not an ongoing investigation.
Well, when a sitting
Exactly. he went, Lindsey Graham went full Denzel. You think you can do this to me? You MFers will be playing basketball in Pelican Bay. Shoe program, 24-hour lockdown. I'm the head of the Judicial Committee.
Senator has to ask why his phone records were sought by an opposing political party. Something is deeply broken. And yet Democrats sat in silence at those parts of the discussion. No words of concern, not one word of outrage. Now, I agree with what Chuck Grassley said when he said that based on the evidence to date, Arctic frost and related weaponization were arguably worse than Watergate. Because the abuse by the Biden sleazoids was broad.
Let's see what they're gonna have to say about that. Let's see what all of these Democrats are gonna have to say about that. Worse than Watergate. How many of you, well, you can't say you remember because you wasn't around, but how many of you know how bad Watergate was? They're still talking about Watergate to this day. To this day, they're still talking about Watergate.
Sweeping in the RNC, the Republican Attorneys General Association, and 92 conservative individuals. If Watergate was about breaking into a political campaign headquarters, Arctic Frost was about breaking into an entire political party. And that's why Democrats are panicking. The facts are coming to light, and they have nowhere to scatter.
Are you firing career prosecutors solely because they worked on cases like January 6th?
Oh my God, I hate that woman. Oh my God, sweet Jesus. Oh, is there anybody else like me that cannot stand this woman? I cannot. Oh my God, bro. Sweet Jesus. Like, call me whatever you want to call me. Call me a jerk. Call me, call me whatever. Whatever. I cannot stand her. Every time she opens her mouth. Oh.
That the president doesn't like?
Senator Hirono, I am not going
Yes
to
or
talk
no?
about personnel matters with you.
I think you should stop with your continuous interruptions, in my opinion. Mr. Chairman, I just want to
Excuse me? Excuse me? I'll interrupt you as much as I want to interrupt you. Big biscuit head.
close by saying that what was once the Department of Justice has become the Department of Revenge and Corruption.
Oh, that's some good writing there. So what did they do today? Well, they just deflected. They shouted. They kind of droned on as she did. And they tried to relitigate things like 2016 and January 6th. It's all they know.
And I think it's been confirmed by the White House they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
You voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here. Our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
I think that was the defining moment of the hearing today. Bondi wasn't just defending her record or Trump's record. She was defending the basic right of every American to have safe cities where criminals, not law-abiding residents, live in fear. And by the same token, no American should fear being targeted by the DOJ or the FBI because of their political affiliation. But the same people who are willing and wailing about Bondi's partisan hit squad were the same ones who not only greenlit Arctic frost, but were fine censoring dissent on social media and using skewed, phony intel to get and torment Trump and smear conservatives. And at least one senator thinks heads should roll.
People need to be fired over it, not just these FBI agents, but let's go after Jack Smith. Let's go after the people that pulled the trigger to go after a sitting president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and President Trump are dismantling that system piece by piece, returning the Department of Justice to its core mission, enforcing laws equally, not politically.
And speaking of Kash Patel, we gotta show what Kash Patel had to say about all of this foolishness. We got to show what Kash Patel had to say about all of this foolishness, because this is unprecedented. And trust and believe it's only gonna get juicier. The more comes out, trust and believe it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. We're gonna find out way more than you could have ever thought.
Dr. Kash Patel, beyond impressive. How do you have a 91% increase in such a short period of time? Does that mean that the last FBI was not working, or are they just working going after Trump?
It's really simple, Sean. The weaponization of law enforcement is over. The American people gave President Trump a mandate, and President Trump gave me, as his FBI director, a mandate as well. Go crush violent crime and defend the homeland. And when you let good cops be cops, like the cops in the FBI and the local and state police officers around this country, they do their job. They get the mission done. As you relayed these stats, this is just 8 months on the job, Sean. We are up double digits on every metric of consequence when it comes to crushing violent crime. Finding kids, seizing fentanyl, arresting violent offenders. We haven't even gotten into our counterintelligence and counterterrorism work, which is ongoing at levels that this country has never seen before. But that's the beauty of these officers and agents. This is the work they wanted to do. And when you don't force them to politicize law enforcement and lie to federal courts to attack your political opponents and get secret search warrants and go spy on members on Congress, they get to go out into the streets and safeguard the community. Operation Summer Heat was our flagship program that the FBI led, and these are the results when you put cops on the streets and let them do their job.
Can you explain? I mean, you went to Chicago today. I mean, how does Chicago have a homicide rate 5 times that of New York City, which does not particularly have a stellar record itself? So you're trying to help the people restore law and order, and so they can be safe and secure, as I said to Todd, so they can pursue happiness, and you need law and order as a foundation, as a prerequisite. What did you see there? What did you learn there, except that you have a governor and a mayor that just don't believe in law enforcement? Apparently, they believe in that defund, dismantle, no bail, reimagine philosophy.
We are taking the juggernaut that is demolishing the weaponization of law enforcement and bringing it to places like Chicago. When I was there today with Todd, we learned that the Chicago city streets have 110,000 gang members. That's right. You heard me right. They had 1,200 shootings this year alone, 360 homicides. When
100,000 gang members. 100,000 gang members in one city. 1,200 shootings. 100,000 gang members. They're lucky Trump hasn't already issued martial law. 100,000 gang members? That is crazy.
this year alone, 360 homicides. Right, you heard me right. They had 1,200 shootings. We learned that the Chicago city streets have 110,000 gang members. That's right. You heard me right. They had 1,200 shootings this year alone, 360 homicides. When politicians choose to side with those metrics and not their citizenry, thank God we have President Trump and this Department of Justice and this FBI going in there and crushing violent crime. And President Trump sent us into these cities quietly to set the stage, to set up for the National Guard, to see the success that we saw in Washington, D.C., in Memphis. The FBI has been leading the charge in every single one of these streets because we know how to gather ground level intelligence and we know how to put handcuffs on the bad guys. And we know that we have the backing of this administration. And most importantly, the agents at the FBI know that they have the backing of the American people and their government.
Can we talk about, and Lindsey Graham is coming up, and he was very angry during the hearing today, and I don't blame him. We had Jack Smith spying on elected United States senators and representatives, and they knew who they were calling, where they were calling from, where the person was receiving the call, who was receiving the call. You have fired the agents that were involved in that operation. What can you tell us about it?
Sean, I want to peel this onion carefully. Look, they put this information, those that weaponized the FBI and prior leadership at DOJ and FBI, they took this information where they subpoenaed 8 sitting United States senators, put it in a lockbox, put that lockbox in a vault, and then put that vault in a cyber place where no one can see or search these files. They're called restricted access and prohibited access. Restricted access means some people get to see it. Prohibited access, you put it in there when you want to hide it from the world, and that takes the authorization of the Attorney General and the Director of the FBI. So not only did they weaponize this law enforcement, but when we got in there, and when I got in as the FBI Director, from my experience as Russiagate, I knew where to look and what rooms to open and what doors to kick down. And that's what we did. We found this information to expose the politicization by Jack Smith and the prior Department of Justice. I mean, just think about it. 8 sitting United States senators, phone records were gathered and subpoenaed through the grand jury process, and it was buried and wormholed. It was the hope that no one would find it. So we're just scratching the surface here, but accountability is coming. You're darn right I fired those agents. You're darn right I blew up CR-15, the public corruption squad that led the weaponization at the Washington field office. We're just warming up, but we are running our investigations to the ground. We are finding every single person involved. We will not leave a single room locked. We will go in through all the prohibited access requirements, and we will find the material and show the American public, like we have done in this FBI, more transformative and transparent than any in the U.S. history, to bring accountability to the American people. And we will work with our partners in Congress, who should be furious at the prior administration's leadership and weaponization and singular politicization of law enforcement. The American public sees what we're doing, Sean, with the stats you just read off in the beginning. They see what we're doing here to develop, to unseal the vault and show the world how the deep state actually operated. It's not a Republican fiction. This is what Donald Trump was put in place to do, and I'm honored to be his FBI director to lead this charge. And the men and women at the FBI, we're all in on this mission.
Director Patel, a 91% increase in arrests for violent crime makes Americans safer and more secure, and they deserve that from their government. That should be a prerequisite. Well done. We appreciate you getting to the bottom.
Yeah, Kash Patel's not screwing around. He's not screwing around. There's so much. There's so much that needs to be unearthed uncovered, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different things that just needs to be exposed. Just needs to be exposed so that we can get some semblance of truth from these freaking organizations. It's beyond ridiculous, man. It's beyond ridiculous. But with that being said, man, this has been Conservative News. I appreciate those of you that came through and supported the show. In fact, hold on one second. Let's see. Shout out to Abba's Child, said just showing support, AM. Appreciate you. Shout out to Joel for the membership. Shout out to Mr. Lone Star. He said he brought up licenses as if they make you take another test. Shaking my head. Facts. Facts. That's why I was like, what is he even talking about? But shout out to everybody that came through. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all already know later on tonight we will be on the live channel, so be on the lookout for me. But as for this session of the Conservative News, y'all already know what time it is, man. I'm gonna holler at you guys later. Deuces.